This episode of the Nerf Herder Council is brought to you by Audible. Visit audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download.
Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking Nerf herder!
You can't use that word! Only we can use that word!
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate. Featuring your hosts, JT.
Stormtrooper armor deflects everything except Orback hooves. They're like a horse version of Thomas the Tank Engine.
AJ.
Yeah, Rebels is a lot like our show, where we think we have a good idea and then it just fails in execution.
On this episode of the Nerf Herder Council, it's host versus host as we debate the Rise of Skywalker. JT likes it, AJ doesn't. Who's going to come out on top? Or is there a middle ground? This is the Nerf Herder Council. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, not only our channels, but those of the Virtual Cantina Network. If you are a member of the Virtual Cantina Network and you are watching, please be aware that the views of the Nerf Herder Council do not necessarily reflect those of the Virtual Cantina Network. Also, there could be some bad language on our show, so if you're not into cursing and all that kind of stuff, might not be the show for you. We are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. You can also score some sweet Virtual Cantina Network gear at tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. And if you are a YouTube viewer, please go and click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. Without further ado, speaking of going live from about, 45 minutes from my house, the gentleman who is going to be very, very wrong in this debate tonight, he is my brother and my co-host, AJ. What's going on, man?
Dude, you're going to tear me a new one in the intro? Seriously? You want to get into this?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to shred you about this movie. I watched it again the other day, and it's fun as hell. Before we get into that, I would just like to say that I'm very mad that I don't have fuck you money, because Alex Van Halen is auctioning off well over 350 personal items from his collection, and I could easily drop a 3 year salary at the drop of a dime. He's auctioning off the tour kit from the 5150 tour.
Ooh. Is that the one from the Live Without a Net video?
It is. He has it for, I think it's like $300. I can get actual stage used backdrops, like 26 feet tall by 52 feet wide from the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge tour, from Balance. The very last drum kit he ever played on stage in 2015 at the last Van Halen show is up for auction. There's a ton of stuff that is so, and those are the big ones, but there's a lot of really affordable stuff, and it is killing me. So I just wanted to vent that real quick. So, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about here tonight. So, except for the fact that Alex Van Halen is awesome, like the Rise of Skywalker. So,
dude, all right, we're gonna start on this point. You didn't think so before, so now you've changed your tune. Why?
I didn't. No, I've always liked this movie. I don't know where you got the idea that I don't like the Rise of Skywalker.
This is where I wish we actually had some show prep to do. I want to go back to previous audio at some point and find all the places that you're just friggin' wrong. You're lying.
I am not lying. When have I ever said I don't like the Rise of Skywalker?
I wish I had some heads up on this. I'd prepare it, but don't worry. That's what we have a Facebook page and a Patreon for. I'll post it. I'll prove you wrong.
You wish you had a heads up. Like we didn't say at the end of our previous episode that this is what we were going to do tonight. You've had 2 weeks to look it up. Now it's, boy, I wish I had time. See, this is why it's going to be an easy debate. You're an idiot.
No, I'm not an idiot. I didn't realize you were going to be a flip-flopper and insist that you never disliked this movie.
I have never said I disliked this movie. That is common goddamn knowledge. Dude, everyone knows that. The Force Awakens is the one that I will always go after, not the Rise of Skywalker.
All right. Well, you want to start off then? You want to tell me why I'm so wrong for not liking this movie?
Yeah. I'm going to answer a music question for Kale. John, as the Van Halen aficionado, which kit did Portnoy play for his video the other day? That was actually one of the most recent tour kits. I think it might have been the most recent tour kit. But yeah, it was from the 2015 tour. Yeah, I have never said that I dislike this movie. It obviously has flaws, but dude, it's a fun freaking movie. Okay. It has basically a ton of really cool fan service, which I'm a fan of. You know, normally I'm not, but it's like, look, it's the last movie of the Skywalker saga. Let's just, give kudos to the people that have been there for the entire ride. Not so much the people that are just coming in at the end, sort of a thing. So, I like that, the cameos and all that kind of stuff. The kind of like the nudge, nudge, wink, wink parts of things. Like it's a fun movie. It's a fun movie, dude. There's a lot going on. There's some interesting stuff. They add a couple cool new things to the lore. It's just a fun movie to watch. It doesn't make you think overly hard like The Last Jedi. It didn't completely just rip off another movie in the saga, like The Force Awakens did. And that wasn't a dig at The Last Jedi, by the way, because I really love The Last Jedi for that reason. But, I
don't know. I think it makes me think pretty hard. Like, I think about why did they make it? Why couldn't they do it any better than this? Why did they get J.J. Abrams back? Why did they think that this was a satisfying conclusion? I got lots of questions.
Well, but we know the answers to those things. And so you almost have to watch this one in a vacuum because they screwed the pooch from the get-go. I mean, that's just all there is to it. When they start out, we're going to write a trilogy, but we have no idea where it's going. Let's just have people write it as it goes. That's not a good way to write a Star Wars story. We know that.
Well, then you're coming at it from an apologist standpoint. You're saying that they basically had a bad idea from the start. So if it doesn't come out like an absolute turd and only a partial turd, that's actually above expectations.
No, I'm not coming at it from an apologist viewpoint because I'm not apologizing for it. I enjoy it. And I don't enjoy it going, well, coulda, woulda, shoulda. No, it was a fun movie. There was a lot of dumb things they did. I'm not going to deny it, but it's fun. It's a fun watch.
Okay, let me pull some comments from our Facebook post in the Virtual Cantina Network group today after we reposted that we were doing the show tonight. Let's talk about the rousing reviews that the fandom has given it. Sasha Case says, actually enjoyed it. Not the ending or storyline a lot of people wanted, but it had good cinematography, music, and effects. All right. Generally rounded off the trilogy in a reasonable way. Does that sound like overwhelming praise to you?
Okay. So what? There's no middle ground.
Did anyone walk out of Avengers Endgame and go, well, that was reasonable?
So you're saying that it either has to be like people can either say that it's completely, absolutely, devastatingly incredible or the world's biggest piece of crap. That's what you're saying. I'm
saying that we agree that this trilogy is the weakest of the three. Yes. And we agree that this is not the best movie of even its own trilogy.
No, that's correct.
It's very low in the pantheon, and it needs to be at least the best of its own trilogy. Return of the Jedi was not the best movie of the original trilogy, but no one said it wasn't a good movie.
You just shit on your own point.
Well, you just talked over the back half of my point. So
because there's no point. You just contradicted yourself. So how are you going to do that? Like, I'm going to make a point, but I'm going to shit on it before you can even retort.
Return of the Jedi was not the best movie in the trilogy, but it worked well as a finale. It was satisfying as a conclusion. It did its job well. This did not do its job well.
Okay.
It didn't.
All right.
Okay, you know how you complain about Force Awakens because it's a rehash of episode 4? There are so many things in this that are a rehash of episode 6. And episode 3 didn't do that. It didn't rehash episode 1 or episode 6. So for the Rise of Skywalker to be like, let's see, what's the big bad in this one? Well, a second Death Star worked for the original trilogy. Let's just say that like all the big ships have Death Star weapons now. Let's just make it Death Star. Let's just invent a fleet out of nowhere that's a new big threat. And oh yeah, the Emperor again. Everything in this is a retread. As much as Force Awakens is a retread, this is also a retread. Except it's even dumber. Tell me that you thought that the final order was a good idea and not a retread.
No, I mean, it's not a great idea. And bringing back Palpatine was not a great idea. I mean, like I said, it's not without its faults, but it's a fun movie. I mean,
it's a nonsensical movie. It just does what it wants with no regard for what came before it.
Well, what do you want? It's J.J. Abrams. I mean, the guy, say what you want. He made 2 Star Wars movies that don't hold up against the rest of the catalog. But at least this one, you say, oh, it's such a rehash because they have Death Star tech. Okay, fine. If you want to say that, bringing back Palpatine. Okay. But I don't think it's a rehash of Jedi. I mean, if anything, it seems like more to do with like something like Attack of the Clones, because it's kind of like a mystery story. Like, oh, we got to go here and figure this out. It's almost like Indiana Jones or something like that. Like, oh, we got to follow this map and then we got to do this. Like, it was interesting. It was different. But it was a fun watch.
Find. A lot of people sure found that planet just fine.
They explain it.
Let's start with the Wayfinder.
The Wayfinder, very clearly. Chastity Crawley. Do we need a mediator like we had in the Octagon? No,
we need cinnamon rolls. I'm still waiting.
Yeah. No, AJ and I are very good at just hollering at each other. So, Kale McLeish, always good to see you, man. I forgot to mention that. He says, fun. You call it fun to keep thinking beloved characters are gone, but then the movie lacks the lines of conviction to actually keep them gone. We'll get to that.
Yeah, they might as well have called this episode 9, Nobody's Dead.
Okay. All right. I mean, Kale obviously doesn't like it. He says, as a musician, no, it's actually horrible. John Williams did a greatest hits medley as forced by the studio without using them for what those themes meant. Pride dies to binary sunset. And he then goes on to say, and then we buried the ships in the ice. But who's going to pilot them? Ice zombies? That's when we developed ice zombies. I don't think they're ice zombies, but all right. So go. Just wanted to make sure that the audience is heard. Even though let's go for a couple more of these Facebook reviews from earlier in the day. Okay.
James McSweeney Pryor says, I like it less and less each time I watch it, but mostly because they squandered what could have been a terrific film. I'm just happy we're stepping away from the Skywalker saga and finally getting some content from a completely different era. I think there's a couple things to break down there.
Okay.
Liking it less and less each time he watches it. Do you have that feeling? Because my experience in the theater with you was like, we were stoked. We thought it was fun. We thought it was much better than episode 7. So we were okay with it for the most part. And then upon rewatch, it was a little less good. And upon rewatch, and now it's just like, why bother?
Well, no, not for me. I actually feel the same way I felt about it then. Like,
really? No diminishing returns for you?
I mean, it was kind of a mess when I first watched it, but I had fun. I mean, all right. So yeah, I have fun watching the movie. I mean, the only thing I would say that kind of annoys you is that there's just they tried to pack too much into it. There's not a lot of space to breathe. So I mean, I would say, and that kind of becomes more glaring the more I watch it, because I know what I'm looking for. And I know what I'm seeing, as opposed to my, first few, viewings, which is always, oh my God, it's new Star Wars. But, other than that, I have fun watching it.
All right. Like I said, I got trapped, May 4th weekend, I was at a friend's house and they were doing the whole Star Wars marathon. So we just had it playing in the background. We were hanging out. And as much as I was trying to not be the Star Wars nerd, I couldn't help but just yell at the TV in moments. And people that hadn't even seen the movie before, they're like, but they were familiar with Star Wars. They were disappointed too. They're like, that either it's a point that didn't make sense or a point that completely undermined something that had happened previously in the movie. Like start with the Wayfinder. There's only 2 of them. For a master and an apprentice for the Sith. We get it. But then like that thing changes hands and people that don't even have the Wayfinder find their way anyway. It was supposed to be this super hard thing to find and then even harder to use. And yet everybody in the known friggin' galaxy gets there. No problem. Like what the hell is that?
Okay. So apparently
I'm pretty sure ships that didn't even have hyperdrive made it there.
Okay. So I'm going to have to dumb this down for you because instead of actually watching the fucking thing, you just decided it's going to be a hit piece. So, okay. Well, first of all, Rey and Kylo, who are a dyad in the Force, they're the only 2 that got there. Okay. And then they followed Rey's signature, all those other ships to get there. Is that difficult to follow?
Yeah. It's like the Kessel Run. It's not easy to do physically. Like it took their Force abilities to get there. But apparently any old schmo can just follow some breadcrumbs now. It's not that hard.
They weren't using their Force sensibilities. They were using the goddamn Wayfinder. It's a map. It doesn't say, okay, do this, but then you got to have, jump through a hoop or some goofy shit like that. It's not like you got to have the Force to do it. That was never
it's like
explained.
Anakin pod racing. It's like Anakin pod racing. You need Force abilities to be able to anticipate and pilot that thing without crashing into something. That's the whole point.
When do they say that? Do they say it's a map to Exegol, or do they say, you can only do it if you're Force sensitive? No, they don't say that. They spell that out with the pod race. You must have Jedi reflexes if you can do it. So they spell it out. This is just, no, man. It's goddamn intergalactic GPS to get to Exegol.
Well, it sure looks like a pain in the ass in the movie, doesn't it?
No, because they got there. They didn't have, it wasn't like the Kessel Run where there's all that goofy shit going on and it's like 25 minutes of the movie. No, it was just like, oh, look at all this red crap. We're flying through a Jello mold.
I get it. So Kylo was just zigging and zagging for fun to show off for nobody in particular.
It's a map, asshole. Okay. Why is this so hard? He said it. They said it's a map. They said it right there. It didn't say it had anything to do with like Force sensibility.
All right. We'll go with that one. Let's talk Skip Ruckle here. He says, at least they didn't have the OJ chase like The Last Jedi. Fair point. That is definitely a demerit on The Last Jedi.
Wait a minute. What part was the OJ chase?
The whole movie. The First Order chasing down what was left of the Resistance fleet in Last Jedi was just slow and plodding until they got to Crate.
That's not the OJ chase. Get the fuck out of here. Man.
Stephen Engel says, my wife is a huge Star Wars fan. Took her opening weekend. She fell asleep.
That's because she's also a Steeler fan, Steven. I don't need to hear that crap. I'm defending the shit out of this thing. I don't care. Buckle up, kids. JT's on the friggin' warpath.
All right, the whole diminishing returns thing I can definitely get on board with. Even you had that reaction. Like the Emperor came back and we were initially excited, and then we're like, well, wait a minute. How does that work?
Yeah, it's
and
not.
The answer is it kind of doesn't.
No, I mean, it's not the best idea. I mean, admittedly, when you read Colin Trevorrow's treatment, I think it works a little better. It would have been cooler as a story doing it that way. And the other thing that I think is always in the back of my mind is I wonder what the hell the story was supposed to be before Carrie Fisher passed away, because we know that, The Force Awakens was supposed to be Luke's movie, or Han's movie, excuse me. Last Jedi was Luke's movie, and Episode 9 was supposed to be Leia's movie. And then she passed away, and, it was, threw the whole thing into chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So I really wonder what it was supposed to have been.
Okay, that's a good point. That is a good point. That's something that they could not prevent. I guess they did the best they could with Carrie Fisher's inclusion in the movie. I mean, I'll have to give that a pass. I will be compassionate on that. That dialogue is putrid, but when you're trying to write lines in response to takes from alternate scenes in other movies, it's going to be a little bit dicey.
Well, and so they could have made better choices with a couple of them, I think. I mean, because some of it's pretty dumb, like, you know, with Snap Wexley, there's like, be a little positive. Oh, this is going great. Like, okay, I mean, is that to me, like, if that's the best you have, like, you don't need that scene in there. Like, you know, again, like, the
one that sticks out to me is Ray's line of like, I know it sounds like I'm making excuses. Like right after she gives this whole thing, it's like, okay, could you tee up the line that was pre-recorded any better than that?
Apparently not. Like, dude, again, like I'm going to keep coming back to this all night long. Like, I'm aware of the flaws and I do see them, but I had fun with it. It's not like, you know, The Force Awakens, where the fact that it was so obviously episode 4 took away my enjoyment of, you know, everything past the first 40 minutes of that movie. I was like, I've seen that before.
Okay, well, let's talk about Kale's point here. He says Ray steals Kylo's tie with his Wayfinder after saving him, then buggers off to Ahch-To and says, nope, die in here like Luke did. So why did you bother to steal the Wayfinder if you felt that way? This is what I'm talking about. The movie undermines itself at points. So can you explain this?
Well, dude, because she saw like the vision of herself as like evil on the Death Star. Okay. So she's like, yeah, not doing it. I'm not doing this. I'm not turning evil. Like this can't happen. So she went to pull a Luke Skywalker. Then Luke, in an epic, you know, pissing match contest between J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson in terms of the writing, Luke comes out and goes, no, you need to go do this, man. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll go do this. So
well, that's why she changes her mind again. But
well, yeah, but
her intent was to steal the Wayfinder so no one else could get to Exegol either, and that would just leave the Emperor unopposed.
Well, dude,
she wanted it to go challenge the Emperor, and then she's like, oh, I'm going to turn evil if I do that. I shouldn't go. But then her follow-up idea was, let's make sure nobody else does either.
I don't think she was aware of this. Well, I don't think she was aware of the severity of what the fuck was going on. Or she thought that she was going to become a part of the problem. That's the way I looked at it. I mean, why would they show her as basically a Sith? That's what she's trying to avoid.
Right. Okay, I get that part. But then wouldn't you want to then get that thing to someone who could fight that fight for you then, instead of just leaving no one to fight the Emperor?
Who's going to do it? For all she knew, it was her and Kylo as the only Force users. What, you're going to, you know, like anybody's going to beat the Emperor? That's what she's thinking. I didn't have a problem with any of that.
Can't win, don't try. Got it.
Well, dude, I mean, what, they did it in The Last Jedi with Luke. So what now? Is this movie a ripoff of the other one? Because she tried to do that and then changed her mind and did, you know, this Jedi thing and went and, you know, fought Palpatine like Luke decided he wanted to be disappeared in frickin' The Last Jedi, but then changed his mind and goes and whatever. Like, I mean, come on.
All right, smart guy. Try to explain this then.
Hold on. Torres says,
Torres, yeah.
Yeah. Torres, good to see you, man. He says, but was she really evil, John? It was stupid. It was a Force vision. God damn it. You know, this is why I have a podcast. A Star Wars related podcast. It's mostly Star Wars. So I can explain this shit to people that don't fucking get it. For example, people who don't understand that the Aluminum Falcons, one of them is 16-0 and the other one's a dummy and he's 15-0-1. There's that to get to too. Now.
Oh, that's for the end of the show. We'll get into that one too. That contest was horse shit, but anyway. Okay, so explain this to me, and this is a legit question because having rewatched the movie, it still doesn't make sense to me, and I'm trying to figure out why this never stood out to me as a problem before. What was Kylo's plan in this movie? Because he starts off by wanting to murder the shit. He like follows the Emperor's summons, finds Exegol, and says, "I'm gonna kill the shit out of you." And then he ends up working for him. Why?
Because the Emperor said, "Dude, if you kill the girl, like you're getting the entire thing." Like, you're the new Emperor. I want her dead. Like, you're
okay. But he wanted the Emperor dead to begin with, so why would he do what his enemy wants?
Because he's too stupid to know that the Emperor's playing him. The Emperor wants the girl out of the way, and he can't do it.
Yeah, Kylo already had control of the galaxy.
He didn't have the final order, which was like the control. That was the whole thing. Like, I've got this fucking super fleet.
See, that part never made sense to me either. Like, the First Order had already conquered like everything. What's the final order going to do that the First Order already hadn't?
There's more ships, and they have Death Star tech.
Right? Like, they don't need it. They already won.
Again,
it's like
dude,
the Simpsons meme. Stop. He's already dead.
Dude, again, like J.J. Abrams did a terrible job with the writing. I'm not going to deny that. There's a lot of things you're like, what the shit? Like, I mean, we didn't even need Palpatine. Let's just be honest. I mean, you didn't. I mean, was it awesome because you get to see the Emperor? Kind of. I mean, I can't even say, yeah, that was great. I love seeing the Emperor. No, because the whole time you're sitting there going, what the hell is that? Like, huh? Like, I don't get it. Like, it was so anticlimactic because at least like in the prequels, you know, people that complain, well, you knew that Palpatine was, you know, the Emperor the whole time. Okay, but it builds to it. It's like you get to see a lot. Like, it's not just all of a sudden Emperor's back. Shit, what? Oh God. You know, like it's not. And it's not great. Again, I mean, I don't know what sort of story crap they had to rush, you know, because of Carrie Fisher's death, but I fully agree that that's not a great idea. But, you know, look, actually, this is a good point here. AJ Solstice. Good to see you, AJ, man.
Yeah, man.
Another AJ on the show. He says, why is there so damn many Siths all the time? Did they ever explain how Maul was alive for that long and other people were able to join the dark side? I've noticed the rule of 2 almost never applies. Well, well, AJ, you're better with the Maul thing, but Maul was basically, he had basically gone insane and was kind of a, you know, lone wolf type of thing, not really operating as a Sith or any, he was just evil, crazy Darth Maul after he got chopped in half, no?
Yeah, the way that one works is that apparently Palpatine didn't know that he was still alive.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
He got cut in half, and then Palpatine's like, "Oh shit, Dooku, you want the job?"
Yeah.
So now we've got, now there are 3 of them.
No, there are 3 of them.
So that's where that came from. But by the way, by the time this movie, Maul's been long dead. He died before the original trilogy, just barely. But yeah, I think it's a lot of that where like people think someone died, so then they replace them and find out that they're not really dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Maul died in 2.4 seconds.
Yeah. Then there's also the Inquisitorius, which are like, they're not full Sith lords, so it doesn't count.
Right.
They're dark side users without being full blown Sith.
This AJ Solstice. I thought it was something that was more enforced by the Force, not like a hiring standoff. Yeah. Kale's got another good question where this is related. He says all the other Sith on Exegol are his faithful. Are they actually Sith or just fanatics? I say fanatics. I say they're like Inquisitorius. Yeah.
Sith was originally, and I don't know if this has ever been confirmed in canon now, but the Sith was originally like a religion, like the Jedi, where you could practice its ways or be a follower of that belief without being, in charge of being a Sith Lord, for example. So just because they believe in the dark side and they follow the Emperor doesn't mean that they are, all red lightsaber wielding, maniacs that are just hell bent on destroying the light.
Well, and I think you can't have that many Sith in one place because, the whole hallmark of that is like, we have to have all the power. So how are you going to get like hundreds of them in the same spot and not have all of them just like butchering each other, So I think that plays into it too, but
that's the shame about them all getting apparently like blown apart or squashed after the Emperor dies. Cause I want to see that. I want to see like them watching the Emperor get offed and then they all kind of turn to each other like, shit, who's in charge now?
It turns into like the fight scene at the end of Blazing
Saddles. It's like
Saddles.
The Purge. Yeah. It's just
seriously, I'm just picturing the end of Blazing Saddles. You father shit.
You're right.
I'm parked over by the commissary. See, another great mashup idea on our part. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I didn't understand Kylo Ren's whole thing because he had basically already won. And that was the conceit at the beginning of episode 9 was like, he's already won. He's got the galaxy. He runs the First Order who runs the galaxy. So he needs nothing from Palpatine. And that's why he went to Palpatine was to go like, hey, dude, I don't need you. In fact, I'm gonna murder you because I don't want any challenges to my authority. And then he ends up working for him. I'm like, what?
Because he's a Sith and they want all the power. If there's something more out there to get, he wants it.
Right. That was his point, is I've already got it and I don't want you challenging me, so I want to kill you. And then Palpatine's like, but wait, if you don't kill me and kill her instead, like, you can offer him the same thing he's already got?
No, this is not that difficult. He wanted to kill him. Then the Emperor's like, I can give you even more than you already have. Oh, hold on. Okay, let me get that. Let me get that. Like, it's not that difficult.
What is more? What is more than ruling the galaxy?
It's dude, they're Sith. I mean, the Emperor's cloning himself so he never dies. Like, what? He just can't stop. It's like, I have to keep ruling forever. Like, I mean, what, you don't ever want to like die? Like, I mean, that right there.
Well, I mean, I
That's
get
like
why the Emperor wanted to, get involved, but Kylo had nothing to gain.
For the love of God, we just went over what he had to gain. Everything the Emperor had. He didn't have that.
He had nothing. He had a bunch of people in bathrobes on a planet that no one could get to.
He had the final
and no one could leave.
Dickhead. He had the final order, you dickhead.
Yeah, and Kylo's first move was to say, I'm going to destroy all this because I've already got the galaxy and I don't want anyone to take it from me.
He did not. He did not say that. See, you just rewatch this thing to shit on it without paying attention to it. That's the problem.
So apparently I've got to call up the script now. We're getting that ticky-tacky.
He's like, I will kill you.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. That's a terrible podcast. Sorry, audience.
So Palpatine's like, he's like, what can you give me? He says, everything. He tells him.
A bagel?
You know what you're doing? You're being that jerk off.
You off. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. You're being that jerk off that we run into that isn't a big Star Wars nerd like us, and then they just make fun of it because they're fucking idiots.
All right, let's run through all the fake outs. Talk about like a no stakes movie. Okay, so Kylo Ren destroyed his helmet in the last movie, right? That was like a big plot point, was to say like, screw this helmet. I don't need to hide my face. And what does he do in this one? Reforges it. Undone.
Okay. Hold your point. We'll do the fake outs. Now I have a question because I can see where this is going, but okay. How much fault can we place for the lack of quality in this movie, for whatever level you're at? You think it's got like zero quality. I think it's got a lot, but the parts that are wrong, how much can we blame on the writing and just being stupid and trying to again, it's a pissing match of J.J. Abrams trying to correct things that pissed him off that Rian Johnson did in The Last Jedi, because that right there is a perfect.
That part's true.
That's I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Like J.J. Abrams himself, oh, that's not the case. Bullshit. He smashed up the helmet, say like, oh, I don't need this. I'm my own person. I'm not like a Vader clone. And what does J.J. Abrams do? Nope, we're gluing it back together.
Yeah, I totally get. There's a lot of that. Sometimes though, you've just got to honor it. Like, okay, Rey should never have been able to make a Exegol. Period. Because the X-Wing, first off, was in the bottom of the fucking ocean. And second, Luke used the door for the wing of the thing for his door. So the thing didn't even have all of its wings, and yet somehow miraculously the thing flies just fine after being dredged out of the friggin' ocean by a ghost. I mean, you whether you like that idea or not, JJ, you've got to honor it. Okay, that is just way too friggin' stupid to undo all of that.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is like part of this to
like,
me
what,
is
Luke
like,
just parked it down there in the ocean because he felt like it, not because it was a way to make sure he could never go back on his word and fly off.
Yeah, he had it parked up in the grass, but then all of a sudden, like,
and
a big rainstorm and erosion and shit, and it slid into the water. He's like, God damn it.
Yeah, he just looks down one day as he's spearfishing. He goes, shit.
God damn it.
Right? Like, oops.
I love it, man. Yeah, I see.
That's how he got the door. He actually tried to fish the thing out of the water and just got like a piece of it. He's like, the fuck do I do with this?
Well, I guess I got a small door now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there goes that idea.
See, we should write the visual dictionaries. We could totally come up with this.
We
stuff.
totally should. Originally, he wanted to have windows too, so he was going to take the windshield, but he just couldn't get it without cracking it. So that's why the hut has no windows. Like he just couldn't get the windshield out of the T-65.
Right. Like, there's no safe light on Och 2.
That's awesome. Safe light on Och 2. Oh my god.
But no, let's talk about like in movie fake outs.
Yes. Okay.
JJ wrote and then walked back in like record time.
Yes.
Chewbacca. We'll just start with Chewbacca.
Missed opportunity. I will agree with that 100%.
Your heart hit your throat when that ship exploded, right? Mm-hmm. They're playing tug of war with the Force and the ship blows up. I'm like, oh shit, now this movie's getting real.
Yeah, I was like, did you just seriously kill Chewbacca? I was like, are you kidding me?
You turned to me. You turned to me in the theater. You were so pissed. You're like, wait a minute, this fucker killed Han Solo 2 movies ago, and now he killed Chewbacca.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, he's a mole for Star Trek. That's all he is.
All you had to do was wait 5 minutes, though.
I know that. See, that one I agree with. That is a huge missed opportunity. You could have played that out a lot longer.
Yeah, that one made absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
To set that up and they'd be like, nah, never mind. Yep. You know, same as walking back the X-Wing and Luke's Force Ghost and basically making his sacrifice null and void.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Kale. He went with his grandma and he says Gran was in tears. Like, yeah. Like, I mean, that was, and, you know, we went with Steve, you know, who used to co-host the show with us for several years. And, his daughter, Chewbacca, was the character. And we were like, oh my God, Maddie's going to lose her mind with this. But then, like you said, wait 5 minutes. Like what? I mean, that would have been something great to do. Mm-hmm. You'll keep that going. Instead, it was it could have been
a heroic return. Like they could have ended up on the Star Destroyer for some other reason rather than just trying to save Chewie. And then, they're cornered and then out of nowhere, Wookiee rampage,
Yeah. Right. Wookiee rampage. Yeah. No, I agree.
Or let's talk about C-3PO. They make a big deal about like, well, we're going to have to wipe his memory. He's going to lose all of his records. Well, what about R2's backups? Oh, those things suck. There's no way in hell those will work. 5 minutes later. Oh, hey, I remember everything. Nice to meet you again. Like, the number of times this movie like imposes stakes and then completely undoes them. I'm like, we can't take any of this crap seriously.
You know what? I will agree with you on one thing. The one thing that I think this movie does not do well is that it doesn't feel like there's big stakes. It just doesn't. I mean, it doesn't feel huge like Return of the Jedi. It doesn't feel huge like Revenge of the Sith. Like you're just like, wait, what? Huh? Who? What's this new character? What are we? Why are we here? Like what new character?
Why does the Millennium Falcon have an engineer on it with no arms?
Yeah, still got to finish my fan fiction, by the way. Yeah,
I just want a fighting game with Claude and Geode.
So good. But yeah, that's the one thing that I do notice about this one that's glaring is that it doesn't feel like there's any stakes. Because it was just, but again, it was like it was slopped together. I think it is such a product of a poor concept from the beginning with this trilogy. I cannot fathom what the hell good they thought it would do to say, we're going to write one movie. Okay. What's the rest of the trilogy about? I don't know. We're going to write it as we go. Like what? This isn't Indiana Jones. It's not like, it's a character that just ends up in random adventures. Like it's a, overarching galactic story. You can't just chuck shit out there this way.
Yeah, I mean, we've both done enough reading on George Lucas's influences to know that like each trilogy had something to say, and then he used the trappings of the Star Wars universe to tell that story.
Yeah.
Whereas this one was just like, let's make more Star Wars. Like the worst Star Wars is always where someone just wants to make a Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, you and I have said many times that our favorite is The Last Jedi. We think it's a great Star Wars movie because it actually kind of was like George Lucas. It took chances. It actually tried to do something. There was a point to what it was doing. Again, it's this one just, again, with Palpatine, it was just too. There was nothing there. It was even the member berries part of it. You were like, oh, sweet, the Emperor. But on top of it, or I should say underneath it, you're kind of going, but why? Like that dude wasn't even mentioned in it. Where did this come from? It was like, what's, what the
Thanos
shit?
was kind of invented. He was thrown in as a what the hell scene post credits in Iron Man 2, I think. It was out of nowhere whenever it was. And then they kind of, retconned the whole thing to be about the Infinity Saga, but they made it work, and they put that groundwork in for literally a decade of movies to make it make sense by the time it paid off. Well, this was just like, let's pretend like he's always been there and you just didn't notice.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, you're like, why is he here?
Yeah,
I'm wondering, why are you here? I don't understand.
I also don't think J.J. Abrams knows how objects or geolocation works, because we already had the map to Luke Skywalker in The Force Awakens, and last I checked, maps don't point to people, and they definitely they don't point to things in general. They're just a thing that shows the lay of a given area. It's not a map doesn't show how to get somewhere. It just simply shows where things are. Not things that move. So if Luke Skywalker had moved, that map would have been worthless. So in episode 7, JJ says, let's not bother to check let's not bother to see if R2D2 has any information first off. And then let's take that little blank space and just assume we couldn't find anything in there. And then in this one, he's like, well, we've got this dagger, you see, and if you stand at the right point on this moon, this, by the way, had to be fashioned after the Death Star had crashed, because the whole thing extends and shows the wreckage. So let's hope that wreckage doesn't move in the middle of this tumultuous ocean that cannot be navigated. Oh, wait, Ray just navigated it. Shall I go on?
No, you go right ahead. You're not.
The Sith dagger was fucking stupid. It tried to be like an Indiana Jones relic, but it made even less sense. Like, it was supposed to be this ancient dagger, right? It's an ancient dagger, but it is molded in the shape of a thing that crashed like 40 years ago.
Yeah, dude. I think you're missing my point from earlier. Like my whole reaction to this movie is, yeah, there's a ton of flaws to it, and it's a jumbled mess in a lot of ways. But I had fun watching it. There's a lot of fun shit to watch.
So is this like B movie fun where it's crap so you can enjoy it anyway?
I don't think it's that bad. I just think that it's.
Oh, Chastity figured it out. Thank you, Chastity. It's a force map. It's fancy. Yeah.
Right. And I want to, Kale, actually. Yeah. Stephen Engel says, what he's saying is, it sucks, but I like it. No, it doesn't suck. It's just, it's got all the cool elements of a Star Wars movie that I enjoy. There's lightsaber battles, and there's the Force, and there's some cool things going on. I get to see, Lando Calrissian. Like I said, there's a lot of fan service for people like me, and I appreciated that.
Idiots, got it.
God, I hate you. Morons. More Blazing Saddles. There we go. But I had a good time watching it, and it was not as bad as The Force Awakens, where the flaws took me out of the viewing experience. So,
wow.
I
think what we're really dealing with is two not very good movies.
Well, and you know what? As I think also my expectations for it weren't that high. I think when I saw what they did between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, I was like, okay, one guy just doesn't understand Star Wars and wants to do a paint by numbers. The other guy's taking all manner of chances. Like the story does not stick together very well between these movies. Like I was not expecting Revenge of the Sith or, Return of the Jedi. And then when I saw the Emperor was back, I was like, what is, that's the best that you can do? Like, mean, dude, I mean, honestly, that is like probably my biggest takeaway is that every time I watch this movie, whereas I like it, I dislike J.J. Abrams in Star Wars more and more. I mean, he really fucked it up. He screwed the pooch. I'm just gonna say he screwed the pooch. Yeah, I mean, he really did. I mean, it was, and it's staggering to me that everybody else seems to have been able to get it right, but that guy can't.
There's some kind of secret sauce to making a good movie, and I don't know what it is, but we've been able to poke holes in other movies, like especially the prequel movies like Attack of the Clones, for example, and yet we don't care. We still go along for the ride. In your case for Force Awakens and in my case for Rise of Skywalker, we can't go along for the ride because of the flaws in this one. So we're not something about these movies don't hook us to the point where we can just see past it and have a good time anyway.
Well, I think, not to bring
I
up
hate nitpicking like this, but they're there to be picked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the second Star Trek movie. The first one that he did was really cool. It was interesting. It was like, oh wow, this is a really cool reboot type of thing. You get to, kind of origin stories for characters and things like that. Like, but then you get to the next one and you're like, what the hell is this Wrath of Khan with the characters reversed bullshit?
Oh
like,
God, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
That's like, another one. Yeah. I think a J.J. Abrams hallmark is just having no sense to your plot, having such a paper thin plot that anyone can poke holes in it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and I get it. You're not George Lucas, so you're not going to, have all of the cool hallmarks that he has, but everybody else has been so goddamn close, if not right on the money. I mean, Dave Filoni, that guy needs, to have his head checked a few times, as we've said, but most of his stuff is awesome. Jon Favreau, awesome. Rian Johnson, it was awesome. Say what you want about that movie, but it had the Star Wars hallmark of George Lucas pushing the envelope and taking chances. That's it had it. The only thing, seriously, the things that people shit on the most in Star Wars right now is the sequel trilogy. And it's mostly The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, granted, but for you and I, it's, The Rise of Skywalker and The Force Awakens. So, again, this one, it's got its problems and its faults, but I was watching it going, okay, I'm having fun watching this movie. The only movie that ever took me out of the viewing experience was The Force Awakens. This one didn't do that. I knew it was screwed up and everything, but then when Lando Calrissian comes out, Wookiees stand out in the crowd. I was like, yes, it's Lando. Like, it's like I had those moments that I want when I go to see Star Wars. And it's like, you could poke holes in most things in Star Wars if you want to. This one more than others. It's imperfect in a lot of ways. I get it, but there's a lot of fun crap in there too. So, I mean, you got Babu Frick. Like, okay, do we need a new character like that? No, but is Babu Frick awesome? Yeah. You've got evil 3PO for a second, which is awesome. I can't read that because it's, in the language of the Sith. Like, okay. But then he's like red eyed and like, he's talking like this. You're like, oh shit, it's evil C3PO. Like, like it's cool.
Okay. And yes. Let's talk more about that. Let's talk about like the new stuff in this movie that hooked you. So you've got, obviously Babu Frick, you got evil, Sith 3PO. What else?
So
did you like the Dorito fighters?
The hell's a Dorito fighter?
The TIE fighter designs for the Final Order, how they all had just like straight triangles for wings.
Oh,
they're the fandom nicknamed them Dorito fighters because it just looks like Dorito chips.
I thought that was trying a little too hard to put something new on the screen. I mean, that's another thing. Like, stop. We didn't need Janna. We didn't need Zori Bliss. We didn't need Dorito fighters. Like it's just, you're in the last movie of this massive saga. You don't have to introduce this new stuff. But the whole, like the Jet Troopers thing was cool. because you got to kind of wonder like how that wasn't a thing before. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you got to have things that fly in the last part of any trilogy. You know, Mega Man 6 had the jetpack on Mega Man. You had RoboCop flying in RoboCop 3. So yeah, jet troopers.
I
actually liked them though. I thought those were fine.
I love RoboCop. I gotta say, like I'm in the middle of playing the game and it's amazing. But RoboCop 2 was so goddamn bad that I never even watched RoboCop 3 or 4. So, yeah, I thought so. I thought the new stuff that they kind of introduced was cool. You know, the whole Sith Wayfinder thing was, I mean, if you're going to explain it somehow, I guess that's a way to do it. So like, you know, the star map on, you know, I call, you know, the Wayfinder star map, but, you know, being protected.
As a general concept, I liked it.
Yeah.
It's a cheesy thing that does fit within the corny universe of Star Wars.
Yeah.
I was cool with the idea of, oh, here's an artifact that you must have to get to this place. Okay. I'm okay with that. That's cool.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole light speed skipping thing was cool. It was, you know, the Millennium Falcon can do more stuff. I'm always a big fan of the Falcon kicking ass. So it's like, you know, there we go. You know, that was fun. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was a ton of it that, you know, wasn't crazy glaring. I think it was more in the characters where it was just like, what the shit is this? And like, you know, but yeah, I mean, it was cool, but some of it unnecessary. But again,
what did you think about the embellishments to the connection between Kylo and Rey? Like, you know, they did the whole, you know, he gets water on his palm when they're connected through the Force, through apparently Palpatine, not Snoke. In Last Jedi, so now they're able to like teleport stuff between them. You know, she's in his bedroom on the Star Destroyer, and like, you know, the coffee beans or whatever from Kajimi, who's just like on his floor.
The coffee beans, nice. Stephen Engel, we're talking about J.J. Abrams. He says maybe he should make a Fast and Furious movie. He would change it up so much, maybe it wouldn't suck. That's awesome. I'll be honest. That part I hated. I did not like the whole, well, I can just make shit disappear in the Force. It's like, you know, the transporter in Star Trek. You know, I didn't like that. I didn't like it in
Force beaming.
Yeah, seriously. Like, I mean, I didn't like it in The Last Jedi. It's one of those things that just crosses too much territory. It's like the world between worlds. Okay, so now we can time travel. How's that going to be used? And now it's the whole, oh, I can just, you know, give you something through the Force. Okay. Okay. So we're going to do that.
Like Amazon Prime in a galaxy far, far away.
It really is. Yeah. So that I didn't care for. I'm like, you know, some things you can take too far. And I thought that was one of them. You know, the whole Force dyad thing I get. That was a really cool concept and everything, but I think they just kind of milked it too much. So no. But you know.
Yeah, JJ's problem with all of his movies seems to be he's very good at posing intriguing questions, but not at answering them satisfactorily. I mean, even going back to Lost, he admits, like, he put all this stuff out there in the first couple seasons and then it like caught fire. He's like, oh shit, now I got to pay this off. Like he did not have a plan, and he admitted that. And it's the same with this trilogy. And I feel like Star Trek is the same way, where there were some interesting ideas. And then he's like, oh, I got to do this again and answer these questions. Well, I'll do my best.
Am I wrong? Or is that a really, really effing stupid way of looking at writing something?
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely stupid. I get that you're, you know, supposedly a generous filmmaker by, you know, leaving the story open for others to build upon. But then how about this? When you get called back in to write another chapter of it after someone has yes-anded your beginning, you don't undo it. You don't shit on it.
Yep. Yeah, that was, and I think, you know, that is also one of my main complaints about this movie. As fun as it is to me, the stuff that he, you know, let's just face it, he retconned basically was so unbelievably obvious. I mean, and part of it was kind of cool, you know, like, I mean, he didn't even hide it. Like, you know, when Rey throws the lightsaber and Luke catches it, a Jedi's weapon deserves more respect. Like, oh my God, why don't you just have him like look over at break the fourth wall, look directly in the camera, do a wink and a middle finger, and then get back to acting in the scene? Like how obvious was that?
Let's just instead of bringing Palpatine back for episode 9, let's just have a new villain. We'll call him, I don't know, Giant Ronston.
Right.
I don't. There's certain comments in the chat here that I'm not sure we want to put up on there.
No, we will not. But he is not wrong.
Yeah. Hi, Chris. We see you.
Aiken is spot on. Yeah, that was, you know, but then again, the one thing that I will say that I thought was cool that he did, you know, going back to like fan service moments, you know, Chewie getting the medal. I thought, you know, that's something fans always complained about, and they found a way to get Chewie the medal, which was interesting. So that was kind of cool. And as much as it's kind of silly, Luke lifting the X-Wing out of the water, I thought was really cool, because that's a throwback to, okay, he can do it now kind of thing. I just thought that was awesome. I was like, hell yeah, dude. You know, they had the music from the, you know, Empire when that was going on. It's like, I liked it.
Covered all the reasons why that makes no sense in universe.
Okay, but I don't care. It was awesome. That's what I'm saying. That's why I enjoyed it, and it didn't take me out of the viewing experience. Because, is it silly? Sure. Is it waterlogged? Sure. But it's also, you're like, he finally lifted the damn ship out of the water. And you hear the music, and it's like a throwback, and it's like, hey, mid-40s guy, like, was like a 5-year-old kid when Empire came out. Look what he finally did. Like, you know, it's like, you know, people wanted to see Luke as superhero Luke in The Last Jedi. They didn't get it. They got a little bit of it in this movie. You know, Luke's redemption or whatever it was, you know, compared to The Last Jedi. It was cool, man.
Yeah, you know why they didn't get that in Last Jedi? Because it was a bad idea.
Okay.
And
all right, that's fine. I thought it was a cool idea, and I thought it was an interesting piece of writing to bring it back around to square one. You know, we're going to use Luke's X-Wing to get her to Exegol to fight the Emperor. It was cool. It was fun.
I thought so much of this movie undermined the sequel trilogy characters. That was the problem. Like, Rey is supposed to be the focus of this entire trilogy. She's the Luke Skywalker of this trilogy. And instead of being able to save her own ass and get to Exegol, it took Luke Skywalker to save her ass and get her to Exegol. Like, like, imagine the original trilogy if when Luke was getting tortured by Vader on Bespin, or getting torched by lightning on the Death Star, if like Yoda's ghost or Obi-Wan's ghost showed up and was like, you stop that, Mr. Emperor, we're going to do something to you right now. Like, no, Luke had to get out of that shit himself. That was the point.
Okay, but in this one, Rey, it's like she had just started training. I mean,
you mean in the last movie of the trilogy?
It happens, dude. These movies all happen within a very short time period between each other. They're not. It's not like it's years and years
She's
in between.
She's supposed to be at her most powerful, and she still needs bailed out by a Force ghost.
Why? All right, if you want to do that, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it.
Look, it makes no damn sense. But when Obi-Wan said, as a Force ghost to Luke, like, if you go there, you got to do it yourself. I can't interfere. It was at least a way to be like, look, dude, you're on your own. You got to handle this. And instead, Luke is, as a Force ghost, is like, no, I got you. Don't worry about it.
It's a metaphor for current parenting. Yeah, back in the 80s. Back when we were growing up, parents were like, fuck you, figure it out yourself.
Helicopter Force ghosting. Yes. There we go.
And now modern parents are kissing their kids' asses and everything. So it was social commentary. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, Kale nailed it. He said the entire sequel trilogy could probably happen in 6 months. Yeah, I mean, it's not, you know, Luke trained for a couple years or whatever it was. You know, Rey did not. So she had some help.
I don't know. She was doing stuff at the beginning of this movie that Luke never did.
Okay.
So it looked like she was doing just fine with her training.
All right.
This is a hot take, though. Chastity, wow. She's a poor, helpless girl. Disney doesn't know how to not make women helpless.
Ooh,
that is rough.
I present to you Jyn Erso. I will disagree with that because of Jyn Erso.
Yeah, I mean the stereotypical Disney princess. You're right.
Yes.
I think Star Wars has done a pretty good job of steering clear of that, thankfully.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of like capable women. You know, Kira was pretty badass in Solo. Like we said, Jyn Erso, Princess Leia obviously is but that's not Disney.
Okay, Chris Aiken has a take here that this is something I never really considered before. The final trilogy basically says that the universe is screwed because Luke is a quitter. They can only succeed when he's active. There's some merit there. I never looked at it like that, but you're right.
Well, when you've got like basically Darth Vader's grandson as the leader of the bad guys, and you've got a scavenger on the other side, maybe, of course that's what they're going to say. We need Luke Skywalker. Otherwise, this guy with the Force is going to kick the shit out of us. That's why there was an empire for 30, 40 years, whatever it was, because there was no one there to stop Palpatine.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a really good point. But yeah, it's interesting that like Luke is the savior of this trilogy. I mean, yeah, Rey did her part, but she wouldn't even be on Exegol without Luke. And Luke was the one that trained her. And yeah, every time he takes a step back from the galaxy, that's when it goes to shit.
Well, but I mean, to me, I think, and actually, let's bring this up. Discuss Metal Joe, good to see you, buddy. Excellent point. We've said this is the biggest mistake of the prequel and sequel trilogy. Well, not the prequels, but is the biggest mistake of the sequel trilogies that the filmmakers didn't make one movie first. The most important detail of the original trilogy is that Star Wars stands alone. Yeah, but
I get what he's saying here. He's saying like episode 1 was conceived of as the beginning of a trilogy.
Well,
it
that's
was
why
never conceived of as a standalone movie.
No, but but neither was episode 4. George Lucas has said many times. In fact, if you go watch Empire of Dreams, he says, he had this huge script that got out of control. So he said he was just going to make the first part, come hell or high water.
Right. But that was the thing. He had to come up with one chunk of story that worked on its own in case he never got to tell another one.
No, but it was already there. He had one huge story and just cut the first part out. That was the first movie. So he just like doctored up the ending or whatever to make sure it would make sense if he never got to make the other ones. That's all. But it was still part of a larger thing. So, look at this. Ugh. Kale, goddamn, we're getting old. Fun fact, we are now officially in the original trilogy. It's been 19 years since Revenge of the Sith was released. Jeez, oh, Pete's, man.
I was thinking ahead about 6 months or so, realizing that we're coming up on the anniversary of this show and also the 10th anniversary of The Force Awakens.
That is crazy. That does not feel like 10 years for either of those things.
I mean, the movie we're talking about is 5 years old this year. So come December, it's the 5th anniversary of this movie. And that's the last theatrical Star Wars movie.
No, it isn't. Is it?
Yeah, Rise of Skywalker was the last film to come out.
It wasn't Solo?
Nope. Solo came out between 8 and 9.
Oh, yeah, 18. Wow.
Yeah, this is the movie that tanked Star Wars in cinemas.
No, that was Solo.
That's how great this movie is. That's also why you notice that there's very little sequel content since then. They've only just now started getting brave enough to even reference it.
Wow.
So as much as you want to say you love this movie damn near killed Star Wars.
Well, yeah, good Lord. Look at Aiken. 10 years, same time since John started growing his hair. Yeah, or December, you dick. So eat my ass. Back to your point about Luke Skywalker and the whole thing, that whole thing and the legacy characters or whatever, like undermining the sequel trilogy characters. I kind of think the legacy characters saved it. Because if you take them out of these stories, especially with how, it's J.J. Abrams versus Rian Johnson. If you don't have that anchor to Star Wars and you've got, some piss poor writing in a couple spots, these movies would have really tanked. I mean, they would have done terribly.
I think that's why we're not, if we got to rank the trilogies, this is going to be last place, because you'd want episode 9, the culmination of the Skywalker saga. You'd want the stakes to be bigger than ever and the whole movie to be more impressive than ever for a big send off. And instead, like you said, the entire trilogy falls apart without leaning on everything that was already done. There wasn't enough setup in this trilogy to make this movie feel like it was a bigger, better, bolder version of what had come before it. It's just I guess we'll do it again and then stop.
I mean, as cliche as it would have been to have Kylo Ren just be the bad guy, like, don't you think that would have been better than just, hey, the Emperor's back? The one thing we haven't mentioned, which I will agree with, is dumb as shit. Somehow Palpatine returned. Like, that's what you got. That is
an incredible thing. Like, JJ invented Kylo. So have faith in your own creation and find a way to make him the big bad.
Yeah. Make it interesting. Like, make it mean something, instead of just, no, the Emperor.
Yeah.
No, now would it have been cliche to have him just turn into a bad guy? Kind of like just, he basically goes down the Vader path again. Like he's bad. He's real bad. Now he's super bad. Like, yeah. Could you have found a way, to redeem him? Could he be redeemed like Vader? Yeah. But there's got to be something else that you can do besides just, we're going to lean on Palpatine again. Like, okay, but yeah. I mean, great. I mean, and the only reason it's a bummer, well, not the only reason, but I think one of the big reasons it's a bummer is because you want to care about Palpatine. We love Palpatine. But so much of his presence in this movie was just like I said earlier, is underscored with us going, but why?
Mm-hmm.
You can't sit there and really get into it. It's not like, they didn't even reference him, previously. So, I mean, if they would have teased it, like, wait a minute, why'd they mention him like 3 times in The Force Awakens? Why'd they mention him like 8 times in The Last Jedi?
And, and we even mentioned that, like, in the lead up when they first, announced the trailer at Celebration, for example, we got to see it. We were even speculating, sorry. We were speculating, like, what did we miss in 7 and 8? How are they going to, what detail are they going to pull out of those movies that they're going to retcon into being like, okay, we should have seen that. We should have seen that. That's brilliant the way they tied that in. They didn't do that.
No,
they didn't do that at all. Kale brings up a good point here. He says, it honestly peters out instead of ending strong. Sith went like, oh shit, it all led here. Jedi felt like, we finally won. This feels like, gotcha, you won, and it's over. Cool. And I think that's really what it is. It's just like, it doesn't feel like a culmination of anything. They didn't know how to make it culminate because they had nothing to tie together. It's just, it's there and it's done. And I think that's why they've, shifted focus away from the Skywalker saga. Not because it was like, well, there's no more story to tell. They're just like, you know what? This is not good. Let's just get away from it for a while.
They're going back to it somewhat though, because like I am not coming off of my opinion that this Rey movie, like Dawn of the Jedi or whatever the heck people are calling it or whatever. I'm saying it's going to be episodes 10, 11, and 12. Dude, it's ripe for the taking. The Rey character is popular enough to carry a trilogy. If they do it right, which, I mean, they've nailed The Mandalorian, they've nailed Andor, they nailed Kenobi. For a lot of people, they nailed Ahsoka. People are loving what they're doing with live action Star Wars. And I think they've learned from the mistake of not having one big story chopped into 3 pieces to make 3 movies out of. And I think basically it could kind of be like what people would have hoped or were hoping that the sequel trilogy was, which is, let's see some more Jedi. Let's see let's see stuff come back. Let's, whatever. So I think they're doing that, but, Chris Aiken has an interesting question, and we can get to our wrap up here. But he says, "Do you guys think they failed by going with a quote unquote new Luke in Rey instead of promoting someone from within the council that would have allowed the Force itself to be all powerful and used correctly, which is sort of the religion equivalent the Force was originally intended to be? By going with untapped person twice, the message is that it's weak without the occasional untapped resource." Well, the council didn't exist. The Jedi Council was long since dissolved, so they were kind of stuck there. I think the only way they could have done that would be to kind of say there's like an underground Jedi Council. There's kind of like an underground, kind of like the rebellion again, but just with, hey, there's a few remaining Jedi and they are aware of each other and they're kind of, doing the secret thing. Which, I mean, dude, that honestly, maybe that's what they could do with this Rey movie. Say, hey, like she's aware of some other Force users and they're going to, we're bringing it back. So, but yeah, I mean, Aiken, I really didn't have a problem with them going with a quote unquote new Luke. She honestly, it's weird to say, but she didn't really feel that way to me. Rey is always, I've said it a lot lately, so I won't belabor the point, but she's just a very interesting character to me because I liked her more than I thought I would, because I thought I'd just be indifferent, like, okay, it's the lead character, but I really, really like her. And I didn't, there's obvious parallels to Luke Skywalker and whatnot, and we see that now. They're calling it the Rise of Skywalker, but I didn't see it. It was just kind of like a new person, going on a journey with the Force, and it was, I liked it. I thought it was cool, so I don't have a problem with that, Aiken, at all. What about you, AJ?
Yeah, we talked about Rey being like our favorite part of the new trilogy, really.
Yeah.
I think that character works well. It's just a general archetype. I don't think they were trying to do a new Luke Skywalker, but based on the formula of how you tell stories, she is the prototypical hero character. So I can see the parallels there. I was like the idea of, like Luke was like welcomed into the existing saga, let's call it, in universe, saying that like the Jedi Council already existed and Obi-Wan knew who he was and knew about his father. And like there was this grand legacy that Luke had no idea he was a part of. Whereas like Rey, it came from nothing. And turns out that, yeah, we found out thanks to retcons and JJ, in this movie that she actually was part of that legacy and saga. But up to that point, even in his own first movie, she had no intimation of that whatsoever. And I thought that was kind of cool to be like, holy crap, this nobody out in the middle of literal nowhere is actually important and didn't know it, instead of just that small universe problem of being like, well, unless you're in this family line or this family line, then you don't matter. Like the rest of the galaxy is just, it's like my main problem with Star Trek, where you've got like 7 people on the bridge and then hundreds of people on the ship, but apparently only those 7 people can do anything that matters.
Right.
So same thing, like, oh, we fought the Clone Wars and we fought the Galactic Rebellion, but if your name's not Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, Lando, Anakin, Obi-Wan, well, then you're just along for the ride. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think, Discuss Metal Joe brings up a good point here. He says, Rey being a descendant of the Emperor works either way. He could have been a Sith ghost. I think it can work either way. I actually think I never had a problem with the whole, she might be a Palpatine thing, because I think one of the things you could have done is say, well, Anakin was a product of the Immaculate Conception or whatever people call it, and maybe Palpatine did it again to try and like get it right this time. So maybe that could have been the whole, I'm, really going for it this time, with Rey. I'm going to, do this again.
I think that's the other crime of this movie, though, is, yeah, she adopts the name Skywalker at the end. And it's kind of a message about like, you can forge your own identity. You're not a slave to, your own family tree, so to speak. But like you said, Palpatine came out of nowhere, so he's the big bad, and now his granddaughter is the main hero of the movie. So you call it the Skywalker saga, and yet the culmination is to have 2 Palpatines fighting each other.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about it that way. Yeah, I guess that brings it all full circle. I mean, it's the goofy stuff for you takes away from your enjoyment of the movie, and the goofy stuff for me does not. I mean, I think we're both aware of the shortcomings of the movie, but for me, I'm just like, hey, it's cool, So
this is just another Crystal Skull to you.
Well, on that note, now that AJ can get his stupid ass off the screen, if I got to hear more Crystal Skull shit from him, I'm going to puke. Oh my God. Are you done? Are you done with that?
Oh, I had to troll you. I had to, man. Come on.
Crystal Skull is awesome. Okay. Enough. That is like, and that's, dude, it's Indiana
Crystal
Jones.
Skull is every bit as good as this movie. You're right.
Crystal Skull is Indiana Jones kicking ass. Okay. What more do you want? It's fun. I don't need to get into this with you, Sean. Seriously, you're wrong and whatever. Ugh. Yep, Aiken nailed it. He says, knowing you both, the appreciation of goofy versus not goofy makes sense. Yeah, I mean, Chris, it really is like, I mean, but
I watch more wrestling, so, I got my goofy chops.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the shortcomings are there, and unfortunately, they're obvious. And I think a lot of it comes from really poor writing story-wise. But that being said,
do you think they do a better job of it now?
Oh yeah, I without a doubt. I mean, I think the whole world looks at the sequel trilogy and has said that the major flaw was the fact that they just made it up as they went. And that's pretty difficult to do because you run the risk of ending up with something like this. Like where the story is, it can be jumbled. But again, we don't know what the whole thing was supposed to be when, Carrie Fisher was alive. Would it have been awesome if she was alive? Was there a story there that was just going to be like incredible? I mean, we don't know.
I mean, having no idea who the villain would have been, but I think it would have been intriguing to have. I mean, I think it would have ended up being Leia versus Kylo, right? Not like versus like an actual fight, but that would have been the main conflict. To be like, all right, well, Kylo, you're this big bad, but here's your mom telling you to stop.
I honestly, I think that would have been cool. Like if Leia actually is the one that ends it, like she has to end her own line basically in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would have been that. I mean, those would be some serious stakes. You're like, wait a minute. Like, okay, so Leia has to fight her own kid.
Mm-hmm.
And basically that's her only kid. That's the only remaining Skywalker. So now she's basically ending the Skywalker line or else the galaxy is screwed. Like those are some stakes. Like that would be awesome. So, who knows where it could have gone. That whole, what if thing sucks in this situation. But, in any case, like I say, back to the original point, the goofy stuff in this movie, you just can't watch it. And me, I'm aware of it, but I'm like, this is a fun Star Wars movie.
Well, there's good goofy and bad goofy. Okay. There's light speed skipping and, the Falcon comes back to, I forget the jungle planet that they're stationed on. Help me out there.
Oh God, I'm drawing a blank. Takodana was it's not that one. It's not,
but anyway, you get like, it's on fire. It's all on fire. It's all on fire.
Yeah. Right.
Like that's good goofy. That's funny. Then you've got, Claude. You got an engineer with no arms. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I can't, like I said, I can't argue it. I just, for me, it was a fun Star Wars movie. For you, it was not. So I guess that's the wrap up.
Kale bailing us out. Agent Kloss apparently was the name. Okay. That sounds like a Jedi name, actually.
That's what I thought too. That's interesting.
Anyway, okay, so we've tackled the end of one saga. I believe our next show is beginning another saga, correct?
Yes. Our next show, we will actually be starting a discussion about Harry Potter, which we have never, ever done. So we'll start with the Sorcerer's Stone, or for those of you watching overseas, I believe it might be called the Philosopher's Stone.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you guys are Harry Potter nerds, then we'll be discussing that. I got bit by the bug last year, and I've since read all the books and listened to all the audiobooks and watched the movies and, basically doing what I do when I really like something and go super nerd on it. Just dig right in. So we'll be talking about the Sorcerer's Stone 2 weeks from tonight, which will be... It's in June already, isn't it?
June 5th.
Damn. Yeah, okay. Yeah, June 5th. Okay. So, Wednesday, June 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be talking about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So, we already have a little bit...
welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Muggles welcome. Bring your butterbeer. We already kind of have a disagreement going about this one because AJ said he doesn't really care for the movies. And I thought they were pretty damn good representations of the books. There was obviously some stuff cut for length. Not too many things were really drastically altered. There was one major alteration that I thought was pointless, and it was, I mean, we're not going to talk about it forever, so I can spoil it. Who gives a shit? The way that the director for Deathly Hallows decided that the Voldemort Harry Potter fight needed to be different, I was like, are you serious right now? Like, the ending fight, you're like, oh, I thought it would have been better if... Well, guess what, shithead? J.K. Rowling is a goddamn billionaire who wrote this, and she wrote it that way, so guess what you do? You make the movie that way, asshole. Right? It's not like... If you're in a Beatles tribute band, you don't go, well, we're going to play I Want to Hold Your Hand, but I didn't like the bridge, so I wrote my own bridge to this Beatles song. Piss off. Like, yeah. Anyway, so there's a little bit of my thoughts on that. But anyway,
well, we got our first Harry Potter stand right here. So,
there we go. Chastity, I'm all about it, man. We might take you up on that at some point. That would be awesome. Look, Discuss Metal Joe. AJ's mad because he's Hufflepuff.
You're full of shit, Joe. I'm a Gryffindor. I've taken my Wizarding Sorting Hat profile on Pottermore.com, which is now the Wizarding World or something.com.
Really? That's a thing?
Yeah, you can get sorted into a house.
Really?
I'm a Gryffindor. Miranda's a Gryffindor, so...
Find your Hogwarts house. Well, I got to sign up. Damn.
Yep. So, everybody, that's your homework for the next show. Go to the Harry Potter website. Get sorted into a house. I want to know how many Ravenclaws and Gryffindors and Slytherins and Hufflepuffs we got showing up here.
What a pisser. Oh, man. I didn't know I had to sign up well.
I could see Discuss Metal Joe being a Ravenclaw, for sure.
Yeah, I could see that. That seems appropriate. I really... Yeah, there we go. All right. I'm signed up. Let's see if I can do this real fast. Not waste anybody's time. Let's see. Let's save this. Continue.
Well, while he's doing that, let me tell you about the story of 16-0 versus 15-0-1.
Oh, Jesus. Here we go.
The Aluminum Falcons participated in a Star Wars trivia contest last Tuesday, so 8 days ago.
Yep.
And it actually turned out to be 2 trivia contests in one. So that was the first swerve. It wasn't the usual format of usually 2 rounds with a halftime and a final bit at the end. Instead, it ended up being 2 shorter trivia contests back to back. So, as I recall, we ended up winning the second one outright, correct?
Yes, by a lot.
Our point total was higher by a long shot. We thrashed in the second round. No problem. Awesome. The first one, however, was where the fuckery came in. JT, you want to tell them about that?
Yeah, so somehow we ended up tied with another team. And they decided they were going to do a bonus round. So it was kind of like a tiebreaker. So she asks the question, and we give our answers. And then she says, okay, well, you're both right again. She didn't feel like doing another one, so she said, well, this other team answered quicker, so you win. And I was like, the hell you say? You can't just make that rule up. So I don't count it as a loss. I think that's full of shit.
And I don't either. The dispute we've got is whether or not it counts as a tie or a win.
I'm counting it as a win because we absolutely annihilated that team in the next game. And so had she kept asking questions, it's clear we would have beaten them. So if she would have just kept it rolling, which is what you're supposed to do, we would have won. Yeah, Jeff Caffrey, good to see you, by the way, man.
This is my point.
He says, at worst, you tied. And I understand that, but she, if she was going to tell us the rule, then we would have known. And we could have played to that standard. But we weren't told. And technically, since you're supposed to keep going until there's a winner, because you don't say there's a tie, we would have beat their asses. So I'm saying we win. Because we were the better team.
But it's a speculative win. We can't factually say we would have done it.
Bullshit.
Hey, I'm good with a tie. I'm good with a tie. It's all right. We are still undefeated.
Look, man. I think it's a win. And the waitress said that she thinks we should because it was also not explained that there were multiple games. She said you treat it as one evening like it normally is, and that means technically we won that one too. So there are more opinions saying that we won than we won one and tied one. So what
about Discuss Metal Joe? Just throw it away.
All right, I mean, we could do that. We could say 15-0. Either way, it's all the same thing. I'm fine with that.
The one thing we can agree on is we came away with the idea that what we're going to do is we're going to host a trivia night. We don't know when exactly. Yeah. We're going to find a bar partner for this, but we will find a way to tie it into the show so you guys can play along at some point, whether we do it separate on the show and then do a live version or however. But we're going to write the questions. We're going to make it hard, so study up, and we'll let you know what's going on with that on our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/NHC podcast. That's the best way to stay up to date with everything going on with the show. For example, I might do a Lego stream on Friday. I haven't decided yet, but if I decide to do so, you're going to find out there. And that might be the exclusive streaming home for it. I'm not sure, but it's free to sign up for our Patreon. You don't have to put any money in. If you do, then you'll get a shout out like our buddies Joe and Mark Thrasher. You also get early audio access to the versions of these shows as well. So instead of waiting until Sunday for the audio, you can have it in your earballs on Friday instead. So maybe Friday, if you sign up for Patreon, you'll get yourself this episode on audio and a Lego stream, or maybe you'll get neither because you're not on Patreon. So there you go.
I think it's a great deal. And I think numerous people should sign up for it.
Yeah. I mean, right off the bat, we've got a free audio commentary for the Phantom Menace up there. So if you want that commentary track, the only place you can get it is at our Patreon, and that is free. You don't have to sign up or pay us any money for that right now.
Do we have the schedule of the upcoming Virtual Cantina Network shows?
Yes, we do.
Alrighty. I'll let you read these because I apparently screw it up every time I read it.
So, yeah, we got a lighter schedule this week. You can tune into the Virtual Cantina Network tomorrow night for the VCN watch-along. It's going to be the Phantom Menace with special guests, and they're pretty well connected. So I don't know who those special guests are, but you can bet they're going to be probably some pretty good ones. So that is Thursday, May 23rd at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 Pacific. And then tuning in on Sunday to the Unifying Force, you get History of the Sith in preparation for the Acolyte, which, yes, our next episode will come out just after the premiere of the Acolyte. So we're going to have plenty to talk about in the month of June on that new show. But this Sunday, May 26th, the day before Memorial Day here in the U.S. at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, you get to learn about the history of the Sith on the Unifying Force, and you'll have your primer for the Acolyte when it comes out on June 4th.
Well, there we go. All right. Well, that was a spirited episode. I real quick before we go, I'll give Kale his props here, even though it was a little obvious. Kale says, much like an Imperial starfighter, this was a tie. And then he said, really, no points for that brilliant pun. Apparently, we're not into giving points, for either, correct answers in the Star Wars trivia, meaning multiple questions, so we could actually win the goddamn game, or your brilliant pun. So there we go. Now you know how we felt.
Much like our trivia last week, neither of us won or lost this throwdown. I think it was a tie.
There we go. All right. I mean, you're wrong, but I mean, it's okay. So, okay. Well, all right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. Thank you guys for tuning in. Always, everybody in the chat, you guys are great. Chastity, Aiken, Discuss Metal Joe, Kale, Jeff Caffrey, all you guys, Skip Ruckley. Appreciate you guys very much. Always fun bullshitting Star Wars and nerd stuff with all you guys. As we said, we are going to be back here in 2 weeks. It will be Wednesday, June 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be discussing Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So make sure you guys tune in for that. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. As always, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. And I do have a suggestion to make for a free audiobook if you'd like to check it out. If you are into Harry Potter, which hopefully you are because we're talking about it on the next show, Tom Felton has an autobiography that he reads himself that I just found on Audible today. And I downloaded it, so let's see how that turns out to be. If you would like to get some customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you'd like to get some virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. So until next time, guys, I am your host, JT at Dog Pound Jedi. He is AJ
At Drake Adams 579.
And we will catch you guys later.
Bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus, me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my Nerf herder.
You my Nerf herder.